Whispers of Betrayal. This is the story of how one woman's secret spiraled into tragedy. Torn between a loyal lover abroad and a dangerous affair at home, she turned to deception and the whispers of those she trusted most. But in a world where trust is fragile and ambition wears a friendly face, even the smallest lie can have devastating consequences. And in the end, it all ended in blood. The afternoon sun blazed in a cloudless sky above the peaceful Chatsworth district. Trees swayed gently in the breeze, casting long shadows on the road. Beneath one of them, Joyce and her best friend Deborah sat in the shade, sharing a rare moment of tranquility. The cool breeze brought some relief from the heat, but for Joyce, no wind could quell the fire raging within her. Her conscience was ablaze with guilt. Years ago, Joyce's boyfriend Paul moved to the United States. He had always believed she was his soulmate. Before he left, they were inseparable, sharing dreams of marriage, a home, and a family. Even after years apart, Paul remained true to his promises. That very morning, he called from abroad with a proposal she never expected. What should have been the happiest day of her life had spiraled into quiet turmoil. Without hesitation, Joyce had said yes. However, there was a problem. She was seeing someone else. When Paul became a soldier, their communication dwindled. Months passed with hardly a word exchanged. Joyce feared she was holding on to the specter of a relationship. Convinced that Paul had moved on, she began a secret affair with Stephen. Stephen would visit at night to avoid suspicion. Even so, her neighbor, known for sticking her nose where it didn't belong, had spotted Stephen slipping in and out of Joyce's house at odd hours. Gossip spread quickly, but Joyce had shrugged it off until now. "I don't know what kind of predicament I'm in," Joyce confessed, eyes troubled. "Now Paul's asked me to marry him, and I said yes. What am I going to do about Steve?" Deborah listened with a warm smile, but her heart was cold. She was a master of manipulation, concealing jealousy behind concern and resentment beneath polished pleasantries. Joyce never saw through the facade. Deborah had always envied Joyce's charm and good fortune. Though she didn't wish Joyce complete failure, she certainly didn't want her to rise too far above her either. "There's no need to stress," Deborah said, flicking a crawling ant off her hand. "Don't get too excited over a phone proposal." "It's not like that," Joyce replied quickly. "You know Paul. He's always organized. He'll be on annual leave in 6 weeks. He wants us to get married right away." Deborah's legs crossed and shook, her condescension barely hidden. "Knowing I'm shy, Paul wants me to plan the wedding I'd be comfortable with. He'll confirm his leave soon, and then we'll set the date," Joyce added, her voice laced with cautious excitement. Deborah's mind, however, was far from wedding planning. She was already plotting. Her thoughts were coiled around Sabotage. "You don't have to break things off with Steve yet," she said, her tone deceptively casual. "Just have the wedding somewhere remote, maybe the North Coast. Paul doesn't need to come here. Honeymoon there, and he heads back to the States. By the time your visa comes through, you'll be long gone, and Steve will be a thing of the past." "You make it sound easy," Joyce said, uncertain. "Because it is. Trust me." Joyce wasn't completely convinced, but Deborah's confidence was contagious. Still, she couldn't shake the persistent feeling in her gut. That evening, she turned to her older sister Claudette, hoping for wisdom, but receiving something far more sinister. On the veranda, Claudette leaned back in her chair, folding her arms as a cool evening breeze stirred the trees. She said nothing. Her face gave nothing away. "Forget Deborah's advice," Claudette said. "We'll visit Samuel tomorrow. Remember Grandma's friend? He's a herbalist. Years ago, he told me about an herb that can cause impotence. We'll visit him tomorrow. He'll make your problem disappear." Joyce blinked. The idea felt wild, but the more she thought about it, the more Claudette's plan aligned with what she secretly wanted. Deep down, she was too much of a coward to break up with Stephen directly. She knew his temper, sharp, unpredictable, and feared that ending things might provoke a rage she didn't want to face. She couldn't bear to be on the receiving end of that storm. She couldn't risk being in its path. So instead, she chose the coward's way, the quiet, sinister route her sister had suggested. Early the next morning, the golden glow of the rising sun spilt over the mountain, casting warm light across the valley as the mist slowly dissolved. Morning stirred to life, the cluck of chickens, the bleating of goats, bird song, and the distant hum of vehicles and voices. Along a narrow path veiled in the shade of trees and lined with grass wet with dew, Claudette led Joyce in silence toward Samuel's home, where secrets lingered in the stillness. He welcomed them with quiet warmth, listened without judgment, and handed over a small pouch of dried herbs, offering precise, deliberate instructions. That evening, Stephen came over for supper. Joyce served him mint tea, laced with the herbs Samuel had given her. After the meal, he fell into a deep, unnatural sleep. Later, when he awoke and attempted to be intimate, his body betrayed him. Embarrassed and confused, he left quietly before dawn. It happened again the next night, and the night after that. His confidence crumbled. He cried in silence, avoided Joyce, and eventually stopped coming over. Stephen, once proud and boastful among his friends about the length and strength of his manhood, now faced the cruel irony of impotence. Hanging lifeless and soft, a harsh reminder of the power stolen from him, leaving only shame and emptiness in its wake. While he wrestled with the loud whispers of confusion and dismay, the silence of shame crippled any attempt to seek help. While Stephen drowned in silent tears, Joyce's heart leapt with quiet joy, swimming in a pool of secret triumph. Her mind strained to contain it, but the secret pressed harder with each passing moment. Keeping it from her best friend felt like betrayal, and the weight was growing unbearable. A few days later, Joyce stopped by Deborah's house. They sat beneath the sprawling ackee tree in the yard, the shade cool and still around them as they chewed thoughtfully on sugarcane. "It's over," Joyce said. "Stephen's out of the picture." Deborah choked on her cane, coughing violently. Joyce patted her back, unaware of the storm she had just unleashed. Deborah had secretly planned to invite Stephen to the wedding, hoping to stir scandal with the gossipy neighbor. Now, her scheme was useless. "What did you do without consulting me?" Deborah asked, tone clipped and unfamiliar. Joyce hesitated. Something in Deborah's eyes had changed. Hard, calculating, cold. But Joyce brushed it off. "It's taken care of," she said. "Trust me." Joyce, in her trusting way, still naive to Deborah's true nature, revealed everything. Deborah forced a smile. "Your secret's safe with me," she said sweetly, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Deborah didn't wait. The moment Joyce left, she slipped inside, showered, and dressed quickly. Then she set off, taking the shortcut she hadn't used in years. By twilight, she stood outside Stephen's gate, the sky bleeding orange behind her. At her call, he emerged, lurching from the dimness of the living room to the veranda. His eyes were red-rimmed, hollow grief etched into every line of his face. She crossed the distance between them without hesitation, like a tide drawn to shore. "She drugged you," Deborah revealed. "It was a herb, made you impotent," Paul proposed, "and she didn't want you getting in the way. She poisoned you with some bush herb to ruin your manhood." Stephen straightened up slowly, as if each movement weighed heavily with the memories he carried. Grief turned into rage. His love for Joyce, once deep and sincere, curdled into hatred. "That woman is worse than Delilah," Deborah whispered, pretending to comfort him. "You should get help, but you also deserve justice." Stephen said nothing, but his silence screamed. His heartbreak turned to fury. Later that night, with vengeance burning in his chest and a knife clenched in his hand, Stephen waited in the shadows of Joyce's yard, hidden among the banana and plantain trees. The moon hung low, casting long, wavering shadows across the grass. When Joyce returned home, humming softly to herself, he stepped silently from the darkness. There was no scream, only the swift, terrible silence of shock. Rage made his hands brutal and final. He stabbed her again and again until her body crumpled to the ground. As he turned and walked away, her phone buzzed beside her, Paul's name glowing on the screen. Joyce never saw it coming. Moments later, Deborah arrived, hearing a phone ringing nearby. The screen lit up. Paul. She followed the sound and found Joyce's body bathed in blood. Her screams pierced the night, drawing neighbors who wailed and wept in disbelief. Someone fainted. Someone prayed. The police arrived within the hour and cordoned off the scene. Stephen turned himself in hours later. The community mourned. Joyce's funeral was filled with grief, questions, and regret. Paul was devastated, unable to comprehend how joy turned into tragedy. Stephen was sentenced to life in prison. Deborah and Claudette were left to wrestle with the consequences of their manipulation. In the end, all learned a painful truth. Betrayal, deceit, and selfish ambition may seem like easy choices, but they always come with a heavy and often tragic price. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Word, Sound, and Story, where Troy McKenzie brings real-life experiences to life through powerful, authentic storytelling.